Why do people want Dewey and Brick to fight so bad? Loki.
Sibling on sibling violence, verbal or otherwise, is one of humanity's oldest pastimes.
Monkey! Squid! Oh. I have no idea if a monkey could beat a squid or a kangaroo in a knife fight. But if I admitted that, we'd have nothing to do for the rest of the day.
They say that ever since the first insult was made, it's been slung back and forth between siblings. And ever since a rock existed to be bashed over someone's skull, somebody out there looked at it and said, bet, let me take my anger out on human souls. And sure, while Cain and Abel may have taken it,
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. It all adds up. But at the same time, like, we all know Dewey would win. Brick would never win. Not in a million years. You know?
tad too far. I mean, Cain really was a real jerk for offing his brother like that.
But, you know, I'm just gonna come out and say it. This guy's a real jerk.
There are its upsides, right? I mean, a practice doesn't tend to pass on through generations without some purpose. For proof, see the study of memes. Memetics. Yes, that is a word for the science of memes, thank you for asking. But what possible purpose could picking on your little sibling have? Maybe it's the inherent fight over historically limited resources like attention or food. Maybe it's social cohesion between other siblings to gang up on the youngest.
I mean, I think it's also just entertainment, you know? You get bored, you want something to do, you mess with another, you know? I mean, it makes sense, you know? It's all in genetics. People always do that, even in nature. It just makes sense.
Or maybe it's a social fencing, learning how to jab back and forth in a battle of wills. Whatever the reason may be, it happens, and often our TV shows depict this, and Malcolm in the Middle probably has even more sibling battles than the average sitcom.
I wouldn't give up a single one of them.
They're our boys. No one else can say that.
So when people ask which of the brothers would make the best boxer or who would win in a fight against whatever person, I usually don't bat an eye. However, there is a consistent yet weird fight pairing within the forums and comment sections of the internet, and that fight would be Dewey versus Brick. The reason I find this pairing
Dewey would win. We already watched a video about it. Dewey would win, 1000%. Brick is weak. He's small. He doesn't really do anything. Dewey, you know, he has some like traits to him. He's kind of tough. Got a few clips of him like beating people up. He's pretty smart. Has a lot of intelligence.
So
not
strange
Sheldon,
is because while
like the
Dewey
video
absolutely
but
can fight, especially
still
through
pretty smart.
superior strategic tactics, I would not call Dewey a fighter, which I've gotten pushback on, so I want to be clear. I do not see Dewey as somebody who loves or even really likes to fight. Often, Dewey only pushes back or fights due to the pretty severe punishment he gets in his day-to-day life from other members of his family. So I don't think he would ever fight somebody like Brick. In fact, we know Dewey is likely to be super nice to Brick because Brick is just odd with his tics and other behaviors, similar to the kids from Dewey's class, the Buseys, who was a group of just awkward kids, and Dewey was super kind to them and tried to help them. And Brick isn't even close to as bad as someone like Chad, who Dewey was super calm with and tried so hard to get him to chill through kindness.
Chad, I can teach you to play Chinese checkers if you want. Chad! White on white. Blue on blue. Chad, don't do this! If someone catches you, you'll be in big trouble.
So in my view, if anything,
Some little kid came to my house doing that, I would freak out.
Dewey is likely to befriend Brick.
safe.
And then we have to take a look at the other side of this equation. Brick is also very much not a fighter, except unlike Dewey, I do not believe Brick is even capable of fighting. Where Dewey has been hardened by a warzone-like environment, Brick's environment was very easy on him and in many ways coddled him. Brick's biggest issue with his family is that they ignore him too much and that they don't punish him enough and that they do his work for him. Where Dewey deals with being ignored and has to do grunt work for other people and gets beat up by his brothers and teased by his brothers and tortured in other ways. I mean, hell, Axel, when compared to Reese, for example, looks like a saint. So Brick lived in a much softer home, leading him to not really be required to learn how to fight, and also Brick just doesn't seem to be the type to appear to enjoy fighting either. He's happiest when he has his nose in a book, so I do not think he would go pick a fight with Dewey. If anything, they might just not get along and ignore each other entirely. So since neither of them would pick a fight, I doubt it would end in a fight. So why then is this fight pairing seemingly so popular online? Well, first of all, there is a group of individuals who absolutely despise the middle because they deem it a ripoff of Malcolm in the Middle.
Well, I mean, for one, yeah, it is a ripoff, but it's also just like they're super similar, so you just wonder like who would win if they did fight. And you know, Dewey would win. Say it again,
I've talked about this previously, and I think it's very unfair. The only real similarity is the mothers being both overbearing and the fact that both are a single-cam sitcom without a laugh track. Most people think that The Middle is a ripoff of Malcolm in the Middle because they have seen very little or none of The Middle, and they just know that the titles are similar and that they're both sitcoms, and so therefore they feel justified in hating it as quote-unquote a ripoff. Although it is a bit of a one-sided battle where people who like The Middle don't really seem to really care about Malcolm in the Middle that much, or they just like both shows. But so that would explain why some people pit these two shows against each other, but why specifically Dewey and Brick? Well, people often claim that they think the shows are similar because
Well, they're similar, you know, they're both kind of odd, they're both like unusual, so people would just be like, huh, you know, just a thought, I won. Who would win if
they think Dewey and Brick are the same. They say they're both the youngest siblings, that they're weird and annoying, and some say they even look like each other, which there's a few issues with that. First, I don't know what the y'all are smoking, but these two do not look the same. Second, your description is super vague.
Okay, for example, well, the picture he just showed says the exact opposite. They wore the exact same outfit, the exact same everything. They're literally, the picture he shows, they're in the same color, like same kind of shirt, same everything. They both have like the same similar kind of height. The face shape, not as much, but they definitely look similar. Same haircut, same kind of thing.
Second, your description is super vague. For example, Adam from the Goldbergs is also the youngest sibling who looks a little funny and can be annoying, but I don't see people making that comparison. And third, these descriptors are entirely subjective. What's annoying to you may not be annoying to me, and I don't find Dewey annoying at all. I think a lot of people kind of project their own feelings about their own younger siblings onto Dewey, and that's why some people find him annoying or really hate him. And lastly, Dewey changes throughout the series quite a bit. At the end, he's no longer the youngest, for example, and he seems to become a better person by the end, too. And Dewey also isn't odd in the same way Brick is. Dewey may go into a socially inexperienced class like Brick, but unlike Brick, Dewey faked his reasoning for being there in order to help the other kids. But Brick is definitely annoying, though, I'll give you that one. So while I don't necessarily agree with why people pair these two characters, it's because they see similarities across them and because they want to pit the shows against one another. But okay, so we have the pairing and we understand they probably would never fight, but for the sake of the hypothetical, who would win in a fight between Brick and Dewey? Dewey, 1000%, obviously Dewey. It was never going to be Brick. There is no question, and I don't even think I've seen a single individual who says Brick would win, which is why I think this pairing is so funny and why it sticks around so much and is so common. Everyone agreed before the conversation began that Dewey would win, and a large portion of the internet finds Brick insufferable and annoying.
I mean, just a funny topic, you know, like two little kids, who would win? You know,
so they would love to see him beat down, and every time they make this pairing, I think that's what they're saying, that they want to see Brick get beat up, which I don't want to see Brick get beat up at all, and honestly, at first I didn't even find him that annoying, but by the end of The Middle, I absolutely agree, he was the worst. But the reason that Dewey is the clear winner is because, as discussed earlier, he has to deal with severe adversity. His brothers give him hell, he has grunt work forced upon him, and he sharpened his strategic eye due to him being the youngest and easiest to pick on, while Brick was coddled his entire life, never faced much adversity, and constantly had his work and issues fixed for him. Brick wouldn't even be capable of picking a fight, let alone ending one. So generally speaking, the answer's Dewey, and it always has been. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And why do you think this pairing is so common online, or have you never seen it before? Let me know all of that in the comments down below, and thank you guys for joining me during this video. If you made it to the end, like and subscribe for more content like this going forward. There is a ton of Malcolm in the Middle content in the works, as well as just trying to branch out to other things like other sitcoms. I really like horror, for example, cinema in general, as well as like particularly I have a deep love for all things 80s horror. And so right now I have this interesting series in the work called The Night Guard, where basically I kind of play this character who goes back and reviews these various older like 80s, 90s horror shows or movies. So be on the lookout for that, as well as everything else Malcolm in the Middle on this channel. And on top of that, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/smokinsessions, where we post all of our content ad-free, as well as extra content for as little as $2 a month. And without further ado, my name.
That was a pretty good video. I mean, it's kind of obvious, you know. They're similar. I mean, I don't think Dewey's as annoying, but Brick is super annoying, you know. And like you said, you know, it's just they want to see Brick get beat up. But I mean, it's a little kid, you know. But a pretty good video. Leave a like, subscribe, all that. Alright, next video.